Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today we're tackling something absolutely massive. We're talking about an ancient text that's roughly 10 times the length of the Iliad and the Odyssey combined. Wild, right? We're looking at the Mahabharata. Now, if you're thinking we're just going to dust off some ancient history today, well, think again. We're actually going to explore how this foundational epic serves as a surprisingly practical, everyday guide for making the toughest choices in our modern lives.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with a pretty crucial question. When you hear about these ancient epics, filled with clashing armies, rival kingdoms, and literal chariots, it's super easy to just mentally file them away as, oh, that's just an old war story, like some ancient mythic blockbuster that doesn't really have anything to do with our day-to-day routines. But is that really the whole picture?
Actually, no, not even close. As our source material reveals, this is so much more than just a chronicle of ancient battles. It's actually the ultimate, enduring guide to human life. It just uses the extreme life-for-death pressure of a battlefield to basically stress-test human morality. And in doing so, it holds up a mirror to the exact kinds of conflicts that you and I face every single day.
Section 1. The Greatest Indian Epic.
To really grasp the gravity of its lessons, we've got to look at who put this all together. It was penned by the legendary sage Vyasa, and Vyasa didn't just jot down a timeline of events, he set the stage for this deeply complex ideological family struggle. He wove together this incredibly intricate web of human relationships that literally showcases every single human emotion, flaw, and virtue you can possibly imagine.
And honestly, that's exactly why it's famous as the greatest of Indian epics. It's not just about the sheer mind-boggling length of the thing. It's the fact that it perfectly captures the human condition in all of its messy, complicated glory.
Section 2. Dharma versus Adharma.
So the entire story basically hinges on this one core struggle. On one hand, you have Dharma. Think of Dharma as the path of righteousness, duty, and cosmic order. And standing in direct opposition to that is Adharma, unrighteousness, chaos, and moral decay. Basically, every single character in this massive epic is forced at some point to choose between these two paths.
And what's genuinely fascinating is how the text uses two warring families as literal walking avatars for this philosophical divide. You've got the Pandavas, who represent Dharma, squaring off against their cousins, the Kauravas, who represent Adharma. By making this a family dispute, the epic is making a brilliant point, really. The battle between right and wrong isn't usually fought against some faceless stranger, right? It's often messy, deeply personal, and fought closest to home.
Section 3. The Kurukshetra War.
Unfortunately, when communication totally breaks down and Adharma goes unchecked, that friction inevitably sparks a massive fire. The text walks us through this tragic progression. Step 1, early disagreements over inheritance and respect. Step 2, factions divide and tensions severely escalate. Until finally, Step 3, the tipping point is reached and a devastating war begins. It's basically a masterclass in how unresolved conflict, especially when it's fueled by ego, can spiral entirely out of control.
And that escalation inevitably plunges both sides into the legendary Kurukshetra War. This right here is the climax of the conflict. Millions of soldiers, entire kingdoms forced to pick a side, all gathering on the plains of Kurukshetra. It is the ultimate collision between the Pandavas and the Kauravas, the literal, physical manifestation of that clash between Dharma and Adharma.
Section 4. The Bhagavad Gita.
But here's the crazy part. Right at the precipice of this massive climax, the narrative just hits the bricks. Imagine the tension for a second. Two huge armies staring each other down, weapons drawn, war horns blaring. And in that split second of impending doom, the story pauses for a philosophical dialogue. That dialogue is the absolute main attraction of the epic, the Bhagavad Gita.
In this highly intimate moment, right in the middle of all the chaos, Krishna pauses to teach and guide a deeply conflicted Arjuna. See, Arjuna is the greatest warrior of the Pandavas, but he looks across the battlefield and who does he see? His uncles, his teachers, his cousins. He's completely paralyzed by grief and the moral weight of what he's about to do, so he drops his weapons. And it's right there that Krishna, acting as his charioteer and divine teacher, delivers this ultimate discourse on duty, action, and the very nature of the universe.
Section 5. A Guide for Life. Arjuna's paralysis, that feeling of being totally overwhelmed by a choice where there are just no easy answers, that is a universally human experience. And from that experience, the text extracts 5 core virtues that are absolutely essential for human life. Krishna's advice wasn't just, hey, here's how to win a sword fight. It was about how to conduct yourself in the world. Our source distills these teachings from this massive epic down to 5 fundamental pillars.
And here they are: morality, duty, devotion, sacrifice, and truth. These 5 pillars serve as a literal, practical blueprint for navigating our own lives. When you're faced with a tough dilemma, the Mahabharata is essentially asking you to weigh your actions against these exact concepts. Are you acting morally? Are you fulfilling your duty even when it really sucks? Can you sacrifice your own ego for the greater good? And are you rooted in truth? That's the secret sauce that makes this text so remarkably timeless.
It completely proves that Sage Vyas's work isn't just some dusty record of an ancient conflict. It's a profound, everyday guide for humanity. The sheer genius of the Mahabharata is that it takes the extreme, localized scenario of the Kurukshetra war and uses it as a metaphor for the internal wars that we all fight. It transforms a physical battlefield into a spiritual landscape, giving us a framework to act with courage when life gets incredibly complicated. Which leaves us with one incredibly powerful, lingering thought about how we navigate our own internal battles. Because let's face it, we all hit those moral crossroads. We all have our own Kurukshetra. So the ultimate question the epic leaves us with is this: when your moment arrives, when the pressure is really on, will you have the clarity and the courage to choose Dharma? Take a little time today to think about what duty and truth actually look like in your own life. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.